Nobody will even know.
One more minute.
I had it charged. Damn it. Should work.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the regular school committee meeting of Monday, September 24th, 2018. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. We're going to start off with our spotlight presentation tonight on ST Math. And for that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Sawyer to do our introductions.
Thank you. We're very excited to do a spotlight on ST Math. I'd like to invite up to the table Tricia Martin, principal of Hyman Fine Elementary School, Tammy LaFleur, our STEM coordinator, and Melissa Bassler, our math coach. Did I forget anybody?
Yes, Barbara.
Oh, Barbara.
Barbara Withers.
You might know Miss Withers.
Okay. Thank you very much for having us tonight. We're very excited about this opportunity to share a little bit about ST Math. It's a relatively new program to Attleboro, and it's currently now in all 5 of our elementary schools, K-4. So very exciting for that. So we thought we'd talk a little bit today about what is ST Math and how did we get to where we are today. And then Missy's going to do a little bit of ST Math puzzles with you. And then we have some students here that are going to show you what they do on a daily basis. So what is ST Math? It's been around for 20 years. And it is based on neuroscience of how people learn and how they build deep conceptual knowledge of math. It's used by over 1 million students in 47 different states currently. Okay, so about 5 years ago, when Superintendent Sawyer was an assistant superintendent, he was introduced to ST Math with the math coordinator at the time, and they went and had a ST Math consultant come to Attleboro and talk to them, and they were very impressed with the program. So I believe at that time you started 2nd grade at Hill Roberts, tried it out for a while. But through budget constraints, we weren't ready to go through the district. About a year later, ST Math came back again and said, is there another school you'd like to try? Because we really still want you to implement this in Attleboro. So Willett did a full year of ST Math. Loved it. Teachers loved it. Kids loved it. And at the end of that year, 2017 that was, we then committed to purchase it for Studley, Hyman Fine, and Willett. So last year, 3 of the schools had it, with the intent that the other 2 would start this year. About halfway through the year last year, we had this opportunity. So they partnered with the 1-8 Foundation, which is a private, it's a philanthropist family that really searched the country to find the best programs and wanted to bring them back to Massachusetts students. So they invested and partnered with ST Math and said, we are going to sponsor for 54 schools to have ST Math, and not only the program, but have ST Math team members come to the schools and work with them for 3 years. So it's not just handing over the program, but working on how to best implement it, and not just 1 year, but 3 years, so it's done right. So the math coaches and the administrators all got together for about 3 months and did 3 stages of grant writing, and all 5 of the elementary schools were granted the grant. So that was a real bonus for us. We're very lucky to have that. Very competitive grants. Out of the 54 schools, we're 5 of them. We're the only district in Massachusetts that all of our schools are implementing ST Math, some returning and some brand new. So that gives us a unique opportunity to collaborate among the 5 schools. We've already started this year. So the grant started in August 28th of PD, and we started collaborating August 28th. So we've already had our coaches in the buildings, in all 5 buildings, working with the teachers, and all of our students have been on ST Math now, and we hit the ground running with this. So we're loving the experience, and Missy and I were involved, and Barbara were involved a lot last year, and we see a big difference with the coaches and the new things. So it's not just kids sitting at a computer. We're bringing it into the classroom, and the teachers are giving lessons based off, so that it works in conjunction with our everyday math program too. So, and Missy will give you a chance to experience that. So, let me see. It is definitely a district-wide effort. It is not just the classroom teacher's responsibility. It's not just the coach. So that being said, I'd like to ask Tricia to share a little bit about what the principal's role has been.
So our role basically started at a district level because this district has committed to be able to improve the infrastructure in the buildings. We now are at a place where we have reliable wireless internet throughout the entire school that enables us to be able to have our students connect to the internet with our Chromebooks. We started out slow with our Chromebook acquisition. So we were doing box tops for education, we were using some Feinstein money, we had some small fundraisers, we do half-day hat days, and so we were just starting to build up our funds. I was able to also use some of the budget money that I had in order to be able to start getting Chromebooks in the building. But the big piece was that infrastructure improvement that enabled us to be able to use them on a consistent basis. We had a very large fundraiser 2 years ago, and from that my PTO committed to being able to use the funds from that, and it was greater than we thought it was going to be. And last year we were able to do a one-to-one device to student in the 4th grade. In the 3rd grade we didn't have as many devices, but we had families that were able to commit to being able to do a bring your own device, which I know that you're familiar with from other presentations. So we had families that had their home devices sent in with their students, so we had a greater number of students that were able to use those devices on a regular basis. At the end of last year, we had another fun run. That was the fundraiser that we had, and we again were very fortunate with the families that we have at Hyman Fine that were able to commit to the fundraising effort. And this year, I'm also going to be able to have a one-to-one environment in my 3rd grade, and I'm extremely hopeful that that's going to happen tomorrow, because sitting in my conference room are 50 Chromebooks waiting to be powered up and placed in classrooms tomorrow. So we're very excited about that. We have other Chromebooks that are available in all of our grade levels, and down in kindergarten we have iPads. A little bit easier for those kids to manipulate that technology, and I really didn't think our 1st graders were going to be able to manipulate the Chromebooks. They're masters. It's unbelievable. They can work with the mouse if they need it. They can do the finger pad. We've also made a shift in the district from plain libraries into library media centers. So our library spaces have been transformed, and the district helped with that because we have a full class set of Chromebooks in our library. So at any given time this year, I can have entire classes in all of the 4th grades, all of the 3rd grades, working on ST Math, as well as other things. We do a lot of things on the Chromebooks, but since we're talking about ST Math, this is what we're able to do. I can have the other grade levels that don't have the one-to-one be able to come down to our Library Media Center, and an entire class at one time be able to access that. Students can go into their math lessons with the everyday math, and they can have a center that they're working on in order to improve their skills, and we have enough Chromebooks in every classroom so that there can be at least one center so the students can also reinforce those skills. We've had to work on our scheduling to make sure that we have time available so that students have access to this program. There are minutes of every day that they ask for us to be able to use this technology and to be able to have the children access this program. And I believe that last year we did a very good job at being able to get very close to those minutes through a rollout, but we were attaining the level that they wanted us to. And I have to say that I'm pleased with the type of data that we're looking at that's showing us that there's a good chance that this has made a difference in the type of thinking that our students are doing and the way that they're able to use our everyday math program and have a deeper understanding of the math concepts that they're learning.
Thank you. And Barbara, from a technology educator viewpoint.
And Studley, you said viewpoint.
Yes.
So at Studley, what we do, when the students come into the lab for their lab time, they go directly to their computers and start their ST Math, and so their warm-up is ST Math for 20 minutes. We also, every class has a designated time in the library, on the library Chromes, which is their ST Math time also. In the grades, a lot of time ST Math is a center, that when they go to the different centers, one would be ST Math. So these times, the computer lab, the library Chromes, and their center time, they are able to get their time. K-1 are supposed to have approximately 60 minutes per week. 2nd through 4th grade, they'd like to have 90 minutes per week. That's not in one sitting, that's per week. And so with all these different areas, they're able to get that time. It may vary according, week to week, but on the whole, they get that time. And you could ask Mr. Geddes or Mr. Withers, whose children both use ST Math, and I know both of their children like it very well. So,
I know if you go into Studley, all the computers are set in the library. They're
Yeah.
already
Set
set
up
for
to
the
ST
ST
Math.
Math, so kids can come in and get started.
we have 4th grade
Yeah,
kids that
it's
come
nice.
in before school and set them all up to
That's
ST
nice.
Math to save some time and everything.
Yeah. So a pretty powerful mission statement from ST Math to ensure that every child is mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. So, if you're wondering what the ST stands for, it stands for spatial temporal math. So it's the regions of the brain connecting with each other to make the connections with the learning. In a simplified version of the perception action cycle, it's as simple as a toddler who scoops up mud and the parents say, no, don't do that, but they don't listen and they still put their hand in their mouth with the mud, and then they realize and they get the feedback so that they don't do that again. Or if you're looking at a cup on a table and you don't have to have seen the exact same cup before, but you know it's a cup and you know that you can adjust and what you can do with it. So that is the premise of the puzzles. And on that note, we have Missy here to demonstrate a puzzle talk of what you would do and you have done with students and what teachers are doing with their students.
So with ST Math, we're doing different puzzle talks, and it's basically to get the students to realize once they log on, the first thing that they want to do is just click, 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 click. So having them make sense of what the puzzle is. So with all due respect, you guys are now 3rd graders. Okay? So you are going to be my guinea pigs for the ST Math puzzle talks. So this is one of the challenges that they have in 3rd grade, and we always say play the gray, so whatever they say is gray. There's no directions, there's no talking in ST Math. They have 2 different signals, 2 different signs, one if you the sound if you get it correct, the other sound if you get it incorrect. So it's all visual. You have to make sure you understand what Gigi is trying to show you. Basically, Gigi's getting from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. There's going to be different things that is going to be in Gigi's way that you have to help Gigi solve the puzzle. So, we're going to actually work on attribute transform. And It goes from, so I am in the teacher mode, so I can jump from different level to different level. However, in the student mode, they need to go from one level and do the 4 different levels. It goes from easy to hardest, and then they move on to the next one, again, easy to hardest. So what we want to make sure that they understand is that they are learning from the different levels how to go from easy to harder, but they have to make sure that they make sense of it and they pay attention of what's going on. So we're going to start off with level 1. Okay. Now, Mr. Storrs, since I know you and I've worked with you at Hill Roberts before, can you just tell me what you see on the screen? I don't want you to describe how you think that you would solve the puzzle, but what do you see on the screen?
I see Gigi.
Okay.
I see a triangular shape that I'm assuming Gigi has to get past.
Okay.
I see a red dot.
Okay.
And then I see 3 choice areas, one with dots and triangles.
Perfect.
Or 2 with, yeah.
Does anyone else see anything else? Or do we
The brown blocks up at the top right.
brown block on the top. So we want to get Gigi from one side of the screen to the other. And just a little bit of fact, Gigi was actually supposed to be a kangaroo. However, when a 7-year-old in California looked at it, they were like, well, Gigi can just hop over this.
That's awesome.
So these neuropsychology engineers realized, okay, well, we have to change Gigi from a kangaroo into this cute little penguin. So it would be great if we could just click on here, but that's not going to do anything for Gigi to cross. So what the students need to do is they need to figure out how to get Gigi from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. So what they need to do is just maneuver their mouse and just see what happens. If we click, no, we can't do anything here, nothing here. Oh, do you see the little arrows coming up? That could be something that we might be able to do. Underneath it, that's something that we might be able to do. And here, okay, so let's call these little conveyor belts that we can move. So we know that we're starting off with, what did you call this, Mr. Storrs?
Let's call it a ball.
A ball. What color's the ball?
Red.
Okay.
Ish.
Is it large or small?
Relatively to
Compared to
Gigi, it's large.
Okay. And we need to get Gigi past here, so what's down here?
A hazard, a triangle hazard.
Okay. So if you had to try and solve this puzzle and you realize that there's 3 different things that you could probably click on, which one would you want to click on?
I guess I'm going to go with the one that has no.
No. So so let's call this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Which tier would that be?
Well, see, the ball on the left would make me think that I want to use something other, but now that I think the tier 3 would be the way to go.
Tier 3. Okay, perfect. Let's try. You know what? Looked it out. We tried to make sense of it, so let's see what happens.
Ooh. Oh, poor Gigi.
It's okay. But within a puzzle talk also, we know that Gigi could not go across, but what the teachers can do is if they right click on the bottom, they can actually load into teacher mode. Since I'm already in teacher mode, I don't have to log on, but if they were on a student's computer, then they would log on. And this red information up here lets you know that they got the incorrect information. There's a couple different things that the teacher can do to actually talk to the students or talk to one student, do a whole group, or talk to one student. They can actually do a step-by-step playback of what the student's decision was. Or what we can do is we can try and redo the puzzle. Now, Mr. Storrs, again, you picked the third one, tier 3, correct?
I did.
Okay, now let's see what happens. We can actually pause to see if anything changed. Did anything change? Let's pause it again and keep going. Now, this is the important thing, because this is giving the students feedback, and this is what they really need to pay attention to. This is the sense making. So, you see what's up here?
The big ball,
Okay, what's down here?
the hazard.
All right. Now, what do you see in between here?
I see an interaction between the ball and the hazard.
Okay, so what does it actually look like it's saying?
It's almost as if you need the ball to activate the triangle.
Okay, so the ball, are they saying the ball and the triangle actually don't match?
Yes.
Okay, so let's try something else. Let's try this puzzle again. Now, Mr. Storrs, if you had to do it again, what would you try and do?
I would go tier 1,
Why would you do tier 1?
because the ball matches with the ball, and then the triangle would match with the triangle.
Let's see what happens. Now, did you see that? We can rewind it. the ball changes into the triangle. And what happens?
Yay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Withers. Let's see what you would do right now. Okay, so the last time we wanted to change the shape, color, size. What did we wanted to change? We tried to make a what into a what?
We tried to make a circle into a triangle.
Okay, so we wanted to change the shape. So now what does it look like we're trying to do?
Okay.
It looks like we're trying
No
to.
helping over there.
Collective intelligence, collaboration.
It has to do with which way the triangle is going to go.
Okay, so
Right,
what,
so-
what are we starting off with? Because we know this is going to be the end product, right?
So we're
What we
starting
learned-
off with a triangle.
What triangle? Can you describe that, please?
It's the pointing up.
Okay, what's the size of it?
Big,
Big, what color?
yellow,
And the shape?
triangle.
Okay, and what is the final product that we want to get to?
Big yellow triangle.
We want to get to a big yellow triangle? We're starting off with what?
Big yellow triangle.
And we want to get to what?
Small yellow triangle?
Okay. So, with what we had learned in the past,
Yeah.
we have 3 different options. We have 3 different conveyor belts. What do you think these 3 different conveyor belts might mean? Let's try and make sense of it. Instead of just having the kids click on it, this is what we need to do, and talk to the students without telling them what to actually do. Which one would you pick? Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3?
Couldn't hear me.
Doesn't matter. 1 and 2 look pretty similar.
Yeah, or the opposite.
2.
Okay, now why would you do two, Mr. Withers?
Because I heard someone whisper it.
I didn't whisper too.
All right, so let's see what happens at Tier 2. Now make sure you pay attention to see what happens to the triangle when we
Shrink the
click Tier 2.
triangle. That's
It becomes larger, and it becomes what? Smaller. So again, if a teacher wanted to go into teacher mode to show the student what actually happened, they can double click, they would log on, you would see that the green is correct. If they redo the puzzle, they could actually do playbacks and stop and show the students where this is actually going from a large yellow triangle into a small yellow triangle. Okay. Now let's do another one before we move on. Do this one.
So I know the phrase they always use is think before you click.
Exactly. So down here, we had one incorrect before, but these are our Gigi levels. Gigi always needs to get to 100. If he doesn't get to 100, then he needs to start all over again. Okay, who else do we have? Ms. Larson. Okay, so we started off with what? Changing a what to a what?
A circle to a triangle.
Okay, circle to a triangle, and then we changed, what was the next one we changed?
The size,
The size. And now what are we changing here?
color.
The color. These are all attributes. They're attributes with shapes. Attributes are things that actually describe different things. So again, we come into the enrichment with vocabulary with the students with the puzzle talk. Okay, so from what we have learned from the previous puzzles, which one do you think that you would choose?
I would go with 2,
With number 2. Why would you go with number 2?
because the blue can match up with the blue and the yellow can go with the
All
yellow.
right, let's see what happens. Perfect, because we're not changing the size, we're not changing the shape, we're just changing the color. So again, this is level 1. All right, I'm going to quickly do this because I know for time's sake and everything. So it builds on the different levels. Eventually, it will go up to level 6, and you'll have more options. But you are learning from each level to change the different attributes. So you had 3 different choices. In Tier 3, you will have 9 different choices. In Tier 6, you will have 18 different choices. However, what this is trying to let the students realize is you are building a foundation and you are trying to figure out that there's a beginning and there's an ending. There may be multiple ways to actually find it. Actually, in some of the puzzles, there's different ways to solve the puzzle. Just like in math problems, there's not always one correct way to solve the puzzle or the problem, but you will get one end results. You want to change the big yellow circle to the big green circle. Again, may not have one way to do it, but you will always have the same results. And talking to the students and letting them realize this after showing them and stopping, taking the time, they're like, oh, get it, instead of just clicking. So it's all about the virtual learning. Yeah. And again, this is a 3rd grade challenge.
I figured that one out.
All right, Mr. Withers, what would you do?
You wanted-
Second from the bottom, on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, yes.
Come on, Mr. Withers, do it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then second from the top,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
and then third.
Yeah.
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 Okay, now, Mr. Stores, you said no. Did you have a different way to
Oh, I
solve it?
thought you only had to pick one. So obviously,
But there's different ways to solve it, so.
I didn't realize you had to
again-
pick three. I thought you would just pick the
Well,
one on the right.
actually, yeah, so, and they won't do it till the end. So there's different ways to solve math problems, and that's what ST Math is trying to show us. So,
So a
thank
lot
you
of,
for.
yeah, a lot of the puzzles the kids will be doing on their own, but the teacher can see in their data bank what they might be struggling with, or what would be a good topic to bring to the whole class and have a class discussion on it.
And the objectives that we have on ST Math, they are aligned with everyday math, so they're in correlation with what they're working on in everyday math. So it's fantastic this year.
And so before we leave though, we do wanna turn the floor over.
We have 2 students from Hyman Fine that will actually show you how they would log on to ST Math, because again, there's no directions.
And these are
It's
real
all
life third graders.
visual. Every single student has a certain logon code, and it's different from everyone else, and they will show you what they had to do in order to learn their logon codes and show you the different puzzles that they have.
Close enough so you can help.
When the teachers had their training and they heard that the login for kindergarten students is 11 to 13 picture icons, they said, no way. No way will our kids be able to do this. And after one training, they were all set. So Lillian, you have 13 characters?
Yep.
Okay.
Turn the camera away so nobody's like looking at her password.
We don't need to give her a paper with the code on there. She hasn't memorized it, it's all visual recognition.
So that's just their login to get into the ST Math.
That's impressive.
Spaces Temporal has begun.
She did her homework. Good. And she's already done her homework?
This, we actually don't have it, so since we're in a different setting, they can do it at home, however, what they do at home is actually the replays of what they have done during the classroom. Last year, in about May, what we actually did was open it up so they could play the games at home, so they could actually continue it during the summertime, so they could do ST Math throughout the summer. Predates anyone that you've done before. So if you saw this, just thinking as a third grader, you don't have to say what you would do or anything, but this is the way that they have to try and solve the puzzles. Now, can you explain your thinking why you did that?
The dogs each have 4 paws, and then I would count it out, and 4, and then I would say that's 1 dog, 4, 2 dogs, 3.
Okay, so now what are you thinking here, how to solve it?
Because they have 2 legs, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 of them.
So you need to get to 100% in order to go to the next level. And again, it gets more difficult and more difficult.
In the design of it, they purposely don't have flashing lights and loud sounds and gold coins you can win, because the motivation is all in the success of getting Gigi to cross.
Yeah.
They don't want any distractors.
So now this is something different, so how would you figure this out?
There's 8 shoes, and I know 4 plus 4 equals 8, so that'd be 2 dogs if each dog has 4 legs.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So a couple of years ago, when we were first thinking about bringing ST Math, we hosted a deeper learning symposium here in Attleboro. And we had one of the co-founders come and talk to people and prospective clients that wanted to bring ST Math in. And he talked about when he was in school, he was dyslexic. So he did not want language to be a barrier to learning deeper level mathematics. And now he's a neuroscience programming through high school and college level. So we are hosting another one on November 7th. So if anybody would like to join us in the mini auditorium at 8 o'clock on November 7th. It won't be Matthew Peterson, but it's going to be, I heard he's working on big things, so it is secret, but it'll be another representative from Mind Research Institute. So thank you very
Thank you.
much, and thank you guys very much for showing us what you do.
What does Ash Wash like the best about ST Math? What do you like the best about ST Math? Or the worst? Either one.
You learn the math through seeing pictures on the screen.
Well, so far we've had a positive experience with the students. Changing their skills and activities within the classroom. So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you.
participating.
But I have to say, I have 3 kids, and my middle child is a 4th grader at Thatcher, and they just had their open house, and it was kind of, you had to answer questions about how well you know your child. When I asked his favorite subject, I was like, you know, I figured reading, because he loves to read, and he answered math, and so I like, but every time you have homework at home, you don't like the math. He's like, but the math centers are fun, and now I understand.
It's engaging. and
They
it's-
love the game mentality too.
And I think it's a different way of learning from what we learned. It's not memorization, you know, it's,
Sure.
I mean, it's a different way. There's not just one way to actually do the math problem. As long as you can answer it and you can explain how you got the answer, then that's the way that we learn. We can't just force one problem solving down the throat of kids. I mean, you gotta think outside the mind.
No, and I'm sold, because I've always been a math guy, and I've always tried to stress, even at a young age, how often they use math.
Yeah.
But, you know, they have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So now he's got a way that he can connect the dots and enjoy it.
Exactly.
So I'm thrilled, and this
yeah.
is just early results.
And-
I was stunned
Yeah.
that he would put math as his favorite subject.
And this is great. I mean, without words and everything like that, it helps so many more students who have, you know, problems reading or whatnot. I mean, it's just, it's a great way to have interaction with all the students. So, thank you.
Mrs. Storrs?
Yeah, I have a quick one. I know that there's different access levels, the student access, the teacher, and I guess there's also an administrator from what I was reading.
Correct.
So what does the administrator have access to that the teacher would not?
So the administrator, they are the ones that work at actually at ST Math. So they're the ones that they run all the reports, the teachers, and I have administrator access, not as much as, you know, the account managers at ST Math, but I have access to see all the teachers' data, and I can run specific reports for them. There's the usage data, there's the progress report data, report, and we get a weekly report from ST Math itself that tells us how long the students have been on. There's different features that they have this year. When they log out, actually, you want to show them how you log out? There is an accomplishments page. It might not show up because, actually, no, it should for you. So the accomplishments, this will tell her how long she's been on it for 7 minutes, how many puzzles she solved, how many times she's logged in this week, and some of this is new. So they have different goals and objectives. So the goals and objectives are actually aligned with the everyday math and for the report card as well. So the reports that the teachers will be receiving, and there's going to be new reports, they haven't even come out with them, they're going to be coming out within the next few weeks, which they're going to come and show us how we can actually analyze it, will help the teachers analyze the domain, the standards, and how the students are actually doing within the math program, and figure out what they're excelling at, what they might need extra help with, and so forth. So, and it shows also the overall progress for what they've done so far. By the end of the year, they want to get 100%. But regarding the reports and the administration rights, the teachers, they see their own class. I can see everyone's class. I can also see the student's password. If one student transfers to a different school, then we can transfer them, or if one student leaves the district, then I can also delete that as well. But ST Math overall, they have, the right domain and everything that they can run different reports for that we don't actually have access to.
Great, thanks. One more if I could.
Sure.
So for 3 years, it sounds like we're covered under a grant.
Correct.
So at the end of the 3 years, I would imagine the cost would come on to us. Do we know about what a 3-year contract looks like?
So the cost structure for SE Math is a little bit different than most of the things we buy. It's mostly an upfront cost. It was a very high price tag to bring it into the district. The annual fees to manage it after that fact are actually pretty low. Do you remember? 3,500. Is that per school or total? Yeah, so 3,500 per school, whereas it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring it into the district.
All right, thank you. That's great.
Mr. Quinn?
It's a wonderful program. I know that you're not alone, with that across the state. And as you said, looking at it, I think it's something that we were really interested in my district, and timing didn't work out. But I think it's wonderful that the Attleboro students here. I just want to follow up on something that Principal Martin said about the efforts that have gone into putting in this initial infrastructure and the large, bordering on Herculean task that it takes to get that started. I think it's incumbent upon us to acknowledge that what we have in order to be sustained has to come through our budget, and because these are devices are consumables, and I think it's great what you've done, but we also recognize, or at least I recognize, that it's not sustainable to continue to think that the PTO is going to keep digging into the pockets. So I think it's if we want to see this continue and grow, we got to start treating technology like the fourth utility.
Mr. Gaddis?
Along the same lines of Mr. Domenici, my daughter, not a math kid, when she went into kindergarten, when she would get home, the first thing she'd ask to do is get on the computer to play with Gigi. So we've had the same results in our house. But I just wanted to clarify something along the lines of what Mr. Quinn was just talking about. Did you say we're the only district in Massachusetts that has this in all of our elementary schools?
In all of the elementary schools, yes. There are other schools who they've had a variety of different schools that applied for it. However, they didn't think that they didn't believe that the schools were at that level in order to initiate it, as we have done in the past and what they have seen that we have done in the past. So we are the only school who has 5 elementary schools with ST Math that have been given the grant. One of the gentlemen, the account managers, he lives in Worcester, and his daughter goes to school in Worcester, and his school actually did not get the ST Math grant.
For clarification, are we the only district that has 5 schools that have it, or that got the grant to have it?
5
The
schools that
grant,
got
received
the
the
grant.
And has the mix of not just new or returning schools.
Right.
We're the only district that has that mix, so
Yep.
that we can help each other
Got
work
it.
together on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Storrs?
In looking at this, it sounds like they have like 2 different, I don't know if you call them 2 different programs, but 2 different age groups. It sounds like K through 6 is the one, and then the 7th through 12. So the question is, do we know what the difference would be between like the older student games or the older student instruction as compared to what we just saw?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
fair enough.
I've only seen the K through, I've done.
The last time I was in presentation on that, the older program was actually a remedial program.
Okay.
So it wasn't a school-wide situation. It was, for students who were at grade level. And they were beginning to expand into high school at that time. It was just a middle school program. So Something that as we get this one under our belt, we'll certainly look at to see whether it's a good match.
I did hear the big secret too is middle school and high school.
Okay.
That is the next thing to roll out. They're not ready to roll it out yet, but
Okay.
it's the next step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, this is a phenomenal program. I've seen it at home and see it here, so it's really great. So thank you. I think this is one of the examples of why, a lot of us were so steadfast in wanting to increase technology in the schools, because this is just one example of what can be done in engaging students. So thank you for taking the time to show this to us and to those at home watching. Thank you.
Thank you. No.
Thank you for doing it for us.
Congrats to the students for having better reasoning skills than all of us.
And you could do test demos if you want to try out. Great, so.
I think we may need to.
Great. Our Student Advisory Council update, Ms. Larson.
Yes, so I'll start with the elementary schools first. There's a movie night coming up, so that's pretty exciting. And then Thatcher is doing a fundraiser with the Meadow Farms. And then there's some back to school nights and some half days in the coming weeks as well. Next is middle schools, and they have some curriculum nights coming up, as well as the book fair, which was always my favorite thing to do, so definitely recommend those. And then for the high school, we have senior parent night, and that's one of the nights that the students and the guardians can go to together. And then the transcript forms are now available, so those send the transcripts off to college. They're bright yellow in the house offices, hard to miss. Leo Club has had its first meeting, and that's a great way for students to kind of collaborate to get those volunteer hours in. And then Special Olympics also has its first meeting this week, and there's some more on that here. Basically, this is an awesome club because it's not just Attleboro. When we're on the football field or whatever, us and North don't exactly get along, but this is a great club because it's us, North, and Fian, and we're putting on this awesome event together with local organizations, so it's really nice to kind of come together and kind of break down those, for a day, those issues, but, oops, okay. I don't think it made it into the edit, but also the Blue Pride Palooza is coming up, and it's www.bluepridepalooza.weebly.com, and that's where you can get like tickets, scholarship, sponsorships, and donations, and everything like that. And then for us at school, we're working with some of the kids from the 2030 project, which is, it's the second year that class is running. And then we're also looking to elect some representatives to work on the community council for this year. And our first big project, we want to raise some money for the schools that were impacted by the gas leaks. It wasn't the schools directly that were hit kind of by those in like the Lawrence area, but if there was a student who lost their backpack or something because of that, we want to kind of give them a little bit of love to get through that. So that's our first big thing of the year.
Thank you. Moving on to our business agenda tonight, Superintendent's report. Mrs. Sawyer?
Thank you, Jim Withers. First, I'd just like to reiterate how excited we are about the ST Math program. It was quite a journey to get us to this point. When we first met with representatives from ST Math back in 2013, in that moment, it was unimaginable that we would have this in all of our elementary schools. The cost in and of itself seemed like something we could never find a way to raise the funds to meet, and also, even if we were able to, the technology in the building wouldn't have supported it. So to get here to a place where it's in our buildings, that we worked with the company to find grants to help really bring down that cost to something that we could afford, that we have the technology so the kids can actually make use of it. A lot had to come together to make this happen, and we're really excited to have that. And it is a really fantastic program. As Ms. LaFleur mentioned, the founder of Mind Research Institute has a compelling story. He was failing at school, struggling mightily, hated it. And then at a very late age, I think he was around 13 when he was diagnosed with dyslexia. And when he got services for his disability, suddenly it turned out he wasn't bad at school. He was brilliant, and he went on to go to Stanford, and now he's a neuroscientist. So he wanted to create a program that taught mathematics without the barrier of language, because he firsthand experienced how his language disability got in the way of him understanding math. And so he wanted to create a program that was devoid of that. And as you saw, there weren't any instructions, and the concepts that were being taught were being done so completely visually. Only at the end, in the exercise we saw, did they even introduce a number, right? Remember, when we were looking at the ostrich shoes, right? At first, there were no numbers, and then the last exercise that had the actual number on it, because that's introduced at the end. And then I think later on, really deep into it, they start actually putting in some words just to help reinforce it. But we believe that this engaging program removes barriers by helping kids to practice mathematical concepts in this different way, in a way that has much more access for a wider number of students. This is relatively new. Can't say that we have obvious results on this, but part of the reason why we liked it is that in their own longitudinal studies that they've been doing since they've invented the company, the results are promising, and we think that we're going to see the same kind of thing here in Attleboro. So really exciting, and we look forward for more to come. The only other thing else I meant to mention is that this doesn't replace our math program, right? It supplements it. So we're still doing everyday math as we always did, and then we've added this a couple times a week to give kids practice in this other means. All right, I just wanted to give you a brief update. The MCAS embargo is scheduled to be lifted on Thursday. I will include some summary information with my Friday update to the committee to give you some information, but we'll be doing a full in-depth presentation on that, on those results on October 15th. So you can expect that. We need to remember that we continue to be in a transition phase at the state level. We had a system that was here for a long time. We understood it. We knew it well. It was well established. It had its flaws. It certainly needed to be changed. But we are not out the other side yet of what all of this change means to us. We're still in the process of moving from paper tests to computer-based testing, right? We still, this spring will be the first time that the high school takes the computer-based test. So that's still in process, and it's a different experience for students to take a test on a computer. And so we're still learning what the implications of computer-based testing are and what we need to do to better prepare kids to take tests on computers. And then they take the scores and they put it in their blender up at the state level and turn it into an accountability system. Anytime you create a system like that, there are unintended consequences. And I think the state is grappling with the decisions it's made. We're finding it difficult to get good information from them about how certain things were arrived at, what the implications of certain things are. So we're going to need to be patient as this all plays out. And, hopefully we'll still be getting good information, because ultimately that's the value in all of this. It's to take the data and help us to make good decisions about how to improve instruction and student outcomes. And regardless of some of the peripheral things that come with this, that's what we're going to do as a district. We're going to dig in, look for the signal and the noise, and try to get better as a result of the information that it provides. So that journey begins publicly later this week. The other thing I wanted to update you on is in June we talked about communication for the district, and one of the changes we were looking to make was to create a bulletin for the district. We are intending to do it as a quarterly publication. It will be online. It'll be a digital publication. We're looking to publish this to better inform the APS community. So, certainly as the representatives of the community, you are one of the target audiences of the bulletin, but families, parents, that's one of the audiences that we have in mind when we write this. And also educators are one of the audiences. Being a teacher is an isolating experience, right? They spend a lot of their time alone in a room with kids, and as a profession, they don't have a lot of time to network and to talk to other people. And I think a lot of teachers talk about how they're not aware of things that are going on. So all of these various audiences are being kept in mind as we produce this bulletin. We're going to try to find that right balance where we are saying things that are informative and interesting to that wide audience without getting too technical, using too much jargon, so that people who aren't educators don't know what we're talking about, but also, are detailed enough that the educators themselves will find it informative, and they'll learn about things that are going on that perhaps they weren't aware of because they were so busy teaching the kids. So we're hoping to have that completed in mid-October. So we're really looking forward to our first edition, and that is in process.
Mr. Quinn, do you have a question?
Yeah, just on the back end of your website, do you have information or could you collect data on readership? I think it would be really interesting to see how many people are accessing the site, because I'm sure this goes in, there's a lot of effort and time that goes into it, and just want to make sure, since whoever's in charge of it, the time is precious, that we know that it's hitting the right audience, and it's a good use of the time that's being invested.
That is a fantastic idea, and I will look into whether or not it's plausible.
Thanks.
In this day and age, I would hope so.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how often I'm disappointed by
The answer.
by the answers to these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, if we're going to put this time into it,
Yeah.
if nobody reads it, then we have to rethink what we're doing. But people always want to be informed, and we really think that this might be a better way to communicate to people. The last thing I wanted to talk about this evening is just an MSBA update. Not a lot has changed since we last met. This is because it's somewhere in between there. We have turned over the project to the estimators. So they are busy. They got their pencils out, and they are doing their best to come back with an accurate estimate of what the project is going to cost based on the work that's been done. Now, we already know what the price of the project is, right? We can't get a penny more, and if we spend a penny less, we have to give that money back. So the project is going to cost what the project is going to cost. So then what are we estimating? Well, you got to make sure that the plan as is being designed is going to match that cost. So we anticipate that, because as we make decisions, we're trying to stretch ourselves. We're trying to make sure that we're not making some of the mistakes that this community has made in the past, where we took an option which was in the short term cheaper, but was a long range expense to us because we had to deal with the upkeep or other aspects of decisions that haven't worked out for us. Across the district, we deal with this all the time, as you well know. So we're trying to make wise decisions. We're trying to make good investments in things that will last and will have value both to the school and to the community at large. The problem is that, of course, those things are usually a little bit more expensive than the cheapest option. So when you add it all up, you're going to find that there's a good chance that they're going to come in and that the estimators are saying, well, the plan as it currently stands is a little bit more than what we have for a budget. So then the next step would be to identify what I believe they refer to as alternative ads, right? So those alternate ads are things in the project that will say, okay, to get us down to budget, we will remove these things from the project and put them on a list of things that, if we find savings, as we know in some places we will, because the estimators are conservative, right? We can't come over budget. I know that because of our experience with other projects in the city, everyone assumes that we're going to come in over budget, right? That's a thing I hear people ask about all the time. Well, what are you going to do when it costs more than you say it is? This system doesn't work like this, right? The MSBA process ensures that the project comes in on budget. So there's conservative estimates being made. There's also contingencies built into the plan to allow for unexpected things, because every construction project has those things. So as a result, as we go through the project, there's the opportunity to realize savings. And as you start to realize those savings, you can then convert those savings into some of the things that you've put on the list of alternate ads. So I think that'll be the next step of the process, to say, okay, having, this particular decision, we can put that to the side and say, if we have money for that, then we can put that back in. So that'll be an important part of the process, and we'll certainly keep the committee up to date on what those items are.
Mr. Geddes?
In a conversation I had with one of the architects recently, the example that was given to me was the contractor looks at, we're going to have studs this far apart with this much insulation, and it's going to cost $3.10 per square foot. The other estimator looks at it and says, no, it's going to cost $3.15 per square foot. It's a nickel, doesn't sound like much, but a building this size, that could come up to millions of dollars in difference. And on the other side, I've heard an example given of a very efficient boiler for the new building, and then considering the cost difference to the next level up in terms of efficiency and life expectancy of a boiler. So if I'm understanding you correctly, that next level up boiler might be put to the side for something that's still a quality product.
Yeah.
And then if it turns out to only be $3.10 or even $3.12 per square foot, that savings can go to going up to the next level. So the savings is reinvested into the building to improve it.
Yes. So, a specific example is the courts that are part of the plan. So the basketball court, the tennis courts, right? The cheapest option is to just use asphalt like we currently have. That has a lifespan of, at most 10 years, right? There are other products we could put in that have a lifespan closer to 30 years, right? And they're not 3 times the cost. So, we have to weigh all over the building these kinds of things where, the cheapest option will leave us with the need to replace much sooner than some other options that might leave us in a much better position further down the line. So, could we live with tennis courts with asphalt? Well, we have the whole time, we've had this building, right? So the answer is yes, but, if we can find the money to use the other surface, which I couldn't tell you what it is, but it's somehow better, then that will allow us to put in a product that will last longer and save the community money in the long run. So, we have to go through, again, all over the building are these little things like that.
And of course, the priority being cost effectiveness in terms of maintenance and building efficiency, as well as educational value of everything that's going into the building over tennis court surface.
Yeah.
and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, pricing out the classroom technology, right? So we have choices to make. The costs are, marginally different, but as you say, when you multiply that across the entire building, that adds
Right.
up. And then you have to decide, well, which one, do we want displays or do we want projectors, right? So there's a whole set of thinking that you can apply to that decision. And, one of them is which is better in the classroom today as we understand the technology today, which is always changing.
Right.
But also another one is replacement cost, right? So which one lasts longer and is going to leave the city in a better position? And we have to weigh all of these things. But the estimator will give us sort of a baseline by which how much rethinking do we have to do in the short term, and then again, if we are successful in saving and realizing savings over the course of the project, a lot of those things can come back.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate, that's one of the big things that came up right initially, and I know a lot of us know it, and some of us have been on the committee, so we know a lot of folks that will ask. It's the fact that we have now Highland Country Club being opened up will save us a lot of money in staging. We can stage materials versus having to bring it in just, on-time delivery. Not only does that save on cost, but the headache of, more and more vehicles coming in and out of this area. So people are quick to say, "Oh, great, we're going to save X amount of dollars on this," and it's like, well, to your point, any dollar we don't use goes back to the MSBA, and it gives us the opportunity to factor in fluctuations, whether certain materials may cost more, or to your point, there might be some items on the list that we would like to do, but we have to stay within the boundaries of the project. And I guess the reason I bring that up is I know that we have, coming up next month, right, there's going to be like a joint presentation.
Yes, that was the last thing I was
Oh,
going to say.
sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder, and probably a good thing to maybe reference either to our fellow counselors, or anybody who chooses to come from the, from the community to weigh in, because people ask those types of questions, and, I think it's a good opportunity to let folks know that, we're being as thoughtful as we can on every decision that's being made for a variety of reasons.
Yep. Yeah, so that joint meeting is scheduled for the 25th of October. And we'll include a discussion like this about where we are in the project, but it'll also include a 3D tour of the building, a virtual tour, which is pretty impressive for people who haven't seen all the work that's been done on it. I think people will really be impressed.
Mr. Gaddis?
And that will be in the Bray Auditorium or to be determined?
I think it's to be determined, but it really comes down to how much of a audience we're anticipating.
Okay.
So my hope would be that we need to be in the Bray.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Moving on to our consent agenda tonight, 2 items. Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $223 from the Brennan Organization of Parents, Inc., to help with the leftover school lunch balances from 2017 to 2018, to be distributed as directed in the September 8th correspondence.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept a donation in the amount of $99 from Papagino's Restaurant to Attleboro High School class of 2020.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That concludes the consent agenda. Moving on to the policy, to our subcommittee reports today. Ms. Gales will update us on the policy and personnel subcommittee meeting.
Okey-dokes. My apologies for squinting. I forgot my glasses. We met on September 17th and continued our review of job descriptions. We do not have any to bring forward tonight. Administration asked us to review proposed minor edits to policy DJ purchasing in order to align with the current Massachusetts statutes. So a motion to approve DJ as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, a question.
Consider. So this is to align with mask. Is this? I'm looking and reading all of the exhibits that we're considering for removal from the binder. I was wondering, is this set up where it's more centralized through the superintendent? Is this more the standard for larger purchases in other cities and towns?
it was really just one minor edit, and the way that it's being authorized has really not changed much at all. It was just, the
Okay.
one edit had to do with, I have to go through my notes.
But you're talking more about the removal of the exhibits, right?
Yeah, but the exhibits,
They're
Yeah, it
becoming-
was more the entire policy. I guess we can,
The
Okay.
exhibits are
Yeah.
becoming more of like a procedure than
right,
an exhibit, right?
right.
so with, so one of the exhibits references the signatures that are necessary for the different levels of purchases. With removing those for the superintendent to be the sole chief procurement officer, which I think is a fancy phrase, should there be any additional signatures beyond the superintendent, I guess is my ultimate question with the removal of that third exhibit.
Well, just because we're just removing them from the binder doesn't mean that they're not in existence.
Okay. All right. All right. That was my impression. So okay. Thank you.
And they're not changing.
Yeah, and they have not changed. We're just removing them from the binder because we're not including exhibits in the binder anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. As has previously been done, we will be removing the exhibits that go along with the policy as they do not belong in the policy binder. So a motion to remove DJE1, E2, and DJAE1 from the policy binder.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we made one minor change to policy KLG relations with law enforcement authorities to align with what Mask has. So a motion to approve KLG as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Again, there are 3 exhibits that do not belong in the binder that we will be removing. The administration will be working with the current chief of police to review and create memorandum of understandings between the schools and his department. A motion to remove exhibits KLG, E1, E2, and E3 from the policy binder.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The Mask July newsletter asked us to review policy BEDG minutes and EFD meal charge policy. The subcommittee asked to make some minor changes to the BEDG as well as updated the legal and cross-references in the policy. A motion to approve BEDG as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And we had just recently updated EFD, so there is no action needed at this time, so we will just note the review date on the policy. Next, the subcommittee came up with a list of sections in the policy binder we would like to prioritize for review, and our next meeting is actually next week, October 1st. I don't know who came up with that schedule, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Scales. Next, we have open forum. This is the time when members of the public can address the school committee. Is there anyone who would like to address the committee at open forum? All right, there being no one, I will close open forum. That's all we have on the agenda tonight. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
By the 90s, 90s cover band in
I
Boston.
didn't think. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
The Middle East is,
And I.
it's in Cambridge, right?
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of